Hello, my name is Richard Cundiff. I'm the Director of Laboratory Services at Colleton Medical Center in Walterboro, South Carolina. I'm a medical technologist and I'm ASCP certified.
Well, hello, Richard. It's nice for you to join us today and to talk about being a medical technologist. Not only that, but being the lab director here at Colleton Medical Center. So I want to welcome you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, let's first talk about your occupation, because one of the questions that I asked Mr. Richard Cundiff was about being an MT-ASCP. I know you all want to know what those words mean, those letters mean. So tell us about that.
An MT is a medical technologist. ASCP is our certification program, and it's the American Society for Clinical Pathologists.
Okay. Let's talk about exactly what is a medical technologist. What are some of the things that a medical technologist would do?
A medical technologist is an individual that has gone to school for 4 years and has gotten an undergraduate BS degree. Usually most of our medical technologists in the field now are administrators. They do supervisory work. They do very little bench work. They mainly do the in-depth testing, which is things like research, the high-end testing, things that are more complex to do.
Mm-hmm. When you say bench, you're talking about actually working with the specimens,
right,
hands-on.
Right. Hands-on.
Let's talk about being the director of the laboratory, because I'm pretty sure that now you don't do a lot of the bench work, that you're doing more administrative work. Talk about that.
Correct. I'm on call for the techs. I'm more of a resource if they need help with troubleshooting, which is fixing analyzers, or they have questions or problems. Mostly my work is mainly administrative, more meetings. Putting out fires, what I call putting out fires, interacting with physicians, interacting with staff, other departments, anything to keep the techs freed up to do their work.
That's right. When you talk about those analyzations, are you talking about blood? You talking about all different types of fluids?
Yes. In the lab, we analyze blood, urine, body fluids, and tissues.
Okay.
And just about whatever they send to us.
That's right. So
that comes from the body.
So young people, when you hear somebody say they need a CBC, do they come to you?
Correct.
That's a complete blood count. I got
correct.
that. When they say hematology or hematocrit,
right,
they come to you.
They come to us.
Any chemistries, any of those things. So let's talk about the education that you need for this, because I'm pretty sure most of the young people out there are wondering, what kind of education am I going to need to become a medical technologist?
Okay. Well, in the lab, we have 2 tiers. We have an MLT, which is a medical lab technician, and an MT, which is a medical technologist. The MLTs are the ones who do most of the work. It's a 2-year program where you spend 1 year in the classroom and then another 9 to 10 months training in a facility, learning how to do hands-on work.
Okay.
Once you graduate from the 2-year program, you have an associate's degree and you take the registry from ASCP. The MT, which is medical technologist, is a 4-year program which goes more in-depth with theory. MLTs learn a lot of hands-on. MTs learn more theory and more management classes.
Okay.
And it's a 4-year program, and at the end of their 4 years, they also take the registry exam.
Right. So, you know, there's a lot of interesting things that happen in the lab. One of the things that I want to ask you about is who or what was your inspiration for becoming an MT?
I've always loved chemistry. I'm a certified chemist, and I have something about doing lab work I've always loved. And it seemed like going into the medical field, I could also help and stay in the lab. And I've been doing this now for almost 30 years.
Wow, you've been doing this for 30 years.
That's right.
Tell our young people about the education that they need. When I say education, I'm talking about what courses can they look forward to?
The classes that you would take if you got into this allied health field would be chemistry, but it's not the chemistry that you would have in college. It's what they call clinical chemistry, meaning it would all have to do with what goes on in the body. What your blood, what your body fluids do when they're taken out of your body, how they react to certain things. You take a lot of anatomy and physiology, We've had you'd have report writing because you would have to learn how to distinguish how to write reports.
Wow.
You'd have math. Most of the classes you take hematology, coagulation, blood banking, clinical chemistry, microbiology, but not the microbiology that you're used to in school. It's mainly about growing cultures and how to distinguish different organisms from one another. But it's fun. If you like the lab, it's most of it. I say 75 to 80% of what you study will be the laboratory, will be hands-on in the lab.
Prerequisite courses, when you talk about that, now, do you have to have a bachelor's degree in order to become an MT, or
Yes.
can you start out?
They have changed that. Many years ago, you could have your associate's degree and then work for 10 years and then take the new registry. Now, if you have a bachelor's degree and you don't have a bachelor's degree in allied health or medical technology, you can have one in chemistry or biology. And if you can get some training in a facility, you can train for 2 years and then take the registry exam.
Oh, okay. All right, so young people, you understand. Now, the important question we want to ask is, it's got to do with salary. Because a lot of times young people want to know when they are making the decisions about what they want to go into, they want to know how much money are we going to make. So let's talk about that.
The MLTs right now in South Carolina probably average starting off between, I'd say, $15 to $17 an hour. That's with no experience. MTs usually can start somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 to $21 an hour without any experience too. But the more experience you get, the better your salary is. I personally think the salaries are good in the area.
In the field,
yeah,
in South
field.
Carolina.
Right. In this area, I think they're very competitive. I've kept up with all the salaries in South Carolina, really in the Southeast, and I think they're very competitive.
And I always ask the question about what's exciting about the job, but I can tell just talking to you that just being in the lab, it's exciting. But talk about being the director, the director of the laboratory. What is exciting about your job at this point?
The most exciting thing about my job, and I had to learn to like it really because I'm more of a hands-on person, is that I am a resource for the facility. When they have questions, when they have things that they need answered about the lab, they contact me. And they know in this facility that they can contact me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I am always on call. I don't have a problem having anybody call me at any time or page me.
Wow. Now that leads me to the next question. Young people, it's here. What about family life, balancing family life and your occupation? Being in this field 24/7.
Well, years ago it was really, my wife is a registered nurse for one thing, and all of my sons are grown, but when they were younger, my wife worked nights and I worked days. So that way one of us was always home.
Exactly.
It's very easy to do. When I say I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it doesn't mean I get a call all the time.
Exactly.
They just know if they need me, they can reach me.
Okay. PRN. So you're there.
Something like that. I'm there.
You're there. Okay, the last question that I want to ask you about is your advice. I want you to look at the camera and talk to the young people about the advice that you would give them as they are beginning to process what fields they are interested in.
The best thing I can tell you is when you get into a field, make sure it's something that you love to do. That way it becomes a career and not a job. Careers are things you can do for the rest of your life. A job you will probably change every 3 to 5 years, and you will not enjoy going to it, but you will enjoy going to your career.
All right. Well, Richard said it all. Listen, just remember what he said about enjoying it. It's not all the time, and as I said, Richard, it's not always about the money.
Right.
It's about the dedication and the passion that you have for that particular career, isn't it?
Correct.
Richard, I want to thank you for joining us today. This is Richard Cundiff at the Collington Medical Center, the director